why can't God be inside the body of a man if he so wishes? If he wanted to incarnate in the physical body of a man, why couldn't he do it? That's my question.
Okay, good question. The first thing is that we are the ones who say that God is one. Let's start there. That's in the Torah. Second, can God become a hippopotamus?
If he wanted to do it, why couldn't he?
Okay. Can God turn into this wallet?
That wouldn't make sense.
Why? If God wanted to do it, why wouldn't he?
It's just what reasons would he have to do that?
What reasons would he have to make a hippopotamus? And you said yes. We consider that, first of all, a human being is very limited, and I don't want to sound offensive. Please forgive me for this question I'm about to ask. Did Jesus go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Yes. I had needs.
Of course. Do you understand that the God many people have is a God who... No, I don't want to be explicit, but you got my point. We don't believe that God would want to limit himself to being a human being. That's limiting God, for one. Second, if I tell you now that I believe this wallet is God, that's actually exactly the golden calf argument. What was the golden calf? They melted a piece of gold and it came out in the shape of an animal. Really? A cow? Yes, a calf. And what does the people say there? They say, this is our God, Israel. They are claiming, that is God. That has to be God. Simply because God couldn't become a calf. What's the problem? It's gold. It's the purest material. So, no, not us. Just because a person or 1 out of 3 people and a 2,000-year-old religion says that a person was a god. We're not going to consider it because of the ad populum fallacy. Or, for example, a religion that lasted much longer than Christianity. The Egyptian religion. The Egyptian religion lasted at least a millennium longer. And the pharaohs were gods. Did you know that? The king of Egypt, who were the pharaohs, they were the supreme deity of Egypt. So what are we saying? Who can deny that God didn't want to be that pharaoh? No! Our perspective is completely monotheistic, completely a much greater abstraction of what God is, and that's why we don't consider that Jesus was a god. If God wanted to become a hippopotamus, he could. The real question is what God would want. We're discussing whether Jesus was a god, and we believe he was not.
I see. It's just that I believe that God does things for a reason, for a purpose, right? And if he wanted to become a stone, I don't see the point. I don't see the reason. But if he wanted to become a human being, for the sake of human beings, maybe there would be a reason for him to become a human. That's more or less what I was getting at. My question. I'm not sure I was clear.
Yes, but do you find any reason for God to become a golden calf?
No, obviously not, because it's a national golden calf, but...
And that was the argument of those of the golden calf. They said, that is your God, Israel. It's the same limitation of the infinite in matter. It's simply the... In
fact, no.
Not me. I start from the opposite point. I don't try to be God's psychologist, okay? I don't put God on a red couch as if I were some stereotypical Sigmund Freud. So, God, what's on your mind? Do you want to be human? I think the other way around. I think what was it that sociologically made a group of pagans from the 1st and 2nd centuries make Jesus into a god? I don't think Jesus ever claimed to be God, in my opinion, because he didn't believe that. But that's an interpretation that was made about Jesus. Oh. Why do you think that is? Sometimes the program thinks I'm a bot and shows a message. Sorry. I don't think Jesus ever called himself God. I don't think so. But later, within this ethos, because it was very common in Greco-Roman religion for the ruler of the world to be a god. For example, I don't know, Alexander the Great was a god. He was the son of a virgin according to them. Emperor Octavian too. The Caesars, Titus, all of them were sons of virgins. They were incarnate gods. What? It wasn't unusual for deities to have relations with women and children like Hercules were born. Hercules' mother was a human woman who had a relationship with Zeus the father, with the father god, and that's where her son, Hercules, was born. Let's remember that Hercules sacrifices himself, he gives his life, he goes down to the underworld for 3 days. And then the gods allow him to return to life and he ascends to Olympus alive. That's Hercules. These are things that weren't strange in the worldview of the pagans of that time. For us, it's not like that. We don't have the framework to conclude that a human being became a god. That's why I see him as I take a different approach, you know? You take it from, why wouldn't God do what I would like God to do? I think the other way around. How did we get to the point of considering that a human being was a god? Okay, there are two ways to approach the same topic.
Okay, and a question that I think is related. Before a person is born, did their soul exist? What do you think? No.
No. Yes, I think in a certain way, yes.
So when God gives life to a human being, the soul that has no needs, God turns it into a being that has needs. Because the human being, as you said, has needs, many things, but the soul has no needs. Apparently not. So then why that regression? Why that need to, how do I say it, to have needs?
But the question would be whether the one who has needs is the soul, or the body has needs that the soul doesn't have.
The soul doesn't eat.
The one that eats is the body.
Of course, because then I perceive that the soul, before inhabiting a physical body, to some extent from a certain point of view, is superior. Isn't that right? Because the soul doesn't fear death, the soul doesn't get hungry, the soul doesn't, I don't know. The soul maybe doesn't need to understand life, but the human being, the living being, does need to understand, needs to eat. Because of that setback, I don't know if it went away.
The question is, do you think it's better to have the need or not?
It's better to have it if there's a reason, if there's an end, if there's a goal, right? For example, if I need to eat, if not, I die, right? Yes, because I eat, because I have the need, right? But because I eat, I keep living, so I have the need to eat. So a need is justified by its own necessity, isn't that right?
Good point. Let me explain something. It's a bit deep, and not everyone may understand, but maybe you will. This is complex work, Manel. We don't know how to relax. Why does Adam eat the fruit if God forbade him to? Was he tempted? And isn't everything much more complex? Adam decides to eat the fruit. It's not that he just let himself be carried away. He decides. Why? Because Adam has this. He weighs this situation. I stay in Eden. Here in Eden, I have everything. I have no needs, just like you said. I don't die, get hungry, or get dressed. I have nothing. But if I leave Eden, I have needs. If I have needs, I must make an effort. And if I have to make an effort, I can be better. So I have two options. To be in Eden with everything already prepared, served on a silver platter. Or to be in a situation where by my own merit, I can reach God. That is to say, it's like, there's a story, I don't know if you've heard it, about some fishermen. A businessman asks a fisherman, "Why are you fishing?" You might know this story.
Yes, that sounds very nice.
He's there. Well, I'll tell it anyway. So the fisherman is there on the beach, an islander, and the businessman says to him, "Hey, why are you fishing?" He says, "No, I'm fishing for today's meal." The businessman asks, "Why not sell it and eat better?" The fisherman replies, "Why sell it? I'm just relaxing on the beach, fishing." If you sell it, you can buy a net and catch more fish. And the fisherman says, "Why would I want more fish?" For what? So you can sell more? And that way you can have a boat and go out deeper and catch bigger fish. And the fisherman asks, "But why? Why bigger fish?" So you can have a fleet, sell them, and own a fish company. The fisherman replies, "Okay, but why would I want that?" And the businessman says, "Well, it's very simple, because that way when you are older and become an old man, you'll be able to live peacefully and you'll be able to lie on the beach and go fishing." The fisherman asks, "So what am I doing now?" So that's how it is. If you get what I mean, the moral of the story is, who is right here, the businessman or the fisherman? I think the businessman, because in the end the businessman reached the same goal, which is to lie on the beach and catch fish. But in the businessman's vision, he gave jobs to many people, fed many more people, he made, helped, transformed. While the other one was just doing the same thing, lying on the beach. Adam, in the Garden of Eden, he does the same thing. He has the option to stay in it, or the option to leave Eden to have the opportunity to become better. And that's why Adam eats the fruit, and the argument and dialogue with God fit this. It's a broad explanation by Barbanel. So, to your question, which is better? In fact, we have a Jewish law about garment fringes called tzitzit. When you go to a cemetery, you have to tuck in your tzitzit. You can't have them hanging out of your clothes when you're in a cemetery. Why? Because in a midrashic sense, the dead become envious. They feel envy that the living can do mitzvot. That those of us who are still alive can follow the Torah, we can follow the word of Hashem, while those who are dead can no longer do so. Their opportunity is over. So, to your question about what I prefer, whether it's this lack of need for the soul or the need of the soul, no matter how difficult it is, but with the opportunity to transform the world, it's a good question. Adam faces the dilemma of whether to leave paradise or not.
I understood that difficulties strengthen a person, isn't that right? In Eden, everything is easy. Outside of Eden, it's difficult. Exactly.
It's not just difficult for its own sake. It gives you a chance to improve. You have the opportunity to get closer to God. Truly, in fact, the punishment of the serpent is exactly that it goes on its belly, it says that it will crawl and that it will eat dust. And one wonders, but that's not really a punishment, because if you're crawling and your food is the earth, you'll always have food. What's the punishment there? If your food is endless, then the answer is that that's the punishment. The fact is that you always have if you have everything handed to you for free and can't thank God or make an effort, that's the serpent's punishment, taking things for granted. Judaism values making an effort and improving the world. That's the real merit, okay? I hope so. Well, I send you my regards.
Okay, same to you. Thank you very much.
Same to you.
Okay.
A very, very interesting topic. I didn't want to go into too much detail because it has more to do with things we study in Tanakh, which I do with more private groups. Here, I would get too sidetracked because it's a very long topic.